Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf for another Oh My Harley. But today it's not Oh My Harley, it's called Oh My Motorbike, and I'm very pleased, very happy with my special guest today, Mr. Billy Ward, Billy Bike Truck. Hello, sir. How are you?
RevelatorAlf.
Round of applause. Wow. Listen to them all in the background. It's amazing. God, wow, lower it down, guys. I'm on live.
See, that's the thing. I could bring in the canned laughter and applause later, mate.
Loads of canned laughter. Loads of canned laughter.
Brilliant. Listen, thank you so much. Now, for those of you who are just watching this for the first time, this is a show where talk a little bit about motorcycles. We'll ask 12 really probing questions into motorcycle life and motorcycle adventures in the case of Billy. Now, you are a bit of a motorcycle adventurer, Miles. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Big corporate life for a long time. In shed loads and working for a big company called Accenture for a long time, and married a divorce lawyer, top divorce lawyer, best divorce lawyer you would ever have.
Yeah.
So how did that end?
Well, I don't know. Not very well.
It didn't end good. So thinking that my life was made now with this divorce lawyer, that was completely that didn't go well. So and then when that all wobbled big time, that was, sometimes when shit happens in your life, you get a few options. And one of the options was, how could I turn all this shit, how could I turn this big negative into something a bit more positive? And so I actually decided to turn my life upside down, because it's already sort of was with the massive divorce. So I had a massive divorce, and I had 3 kids, but I put them into council care, and I've never seen them since. That's sad, but life moves on, and I'm sure they'll look after themselves now that they're grown up. And your face is looking a bit anxious there, dude. But anyway, so and then I packed the job in, packed everything in, and had a whole new life. And I bought a KTM 950, if you remember that, and I went off to Africa and started riding around Africa on my own, and packed in the big job and didn't really have a job, and then started making it up from there. And that was about 2005. And so from a big corporate world, where I was well looked after, pensions and all that, big massive divorce, bought a KTM 950. Already had loads of little crummy motorbikes anyway, but I was never really into the whole adventure thing, traveling around the world and that. And then I just trying to sort my head out, got on a 950 and rode from Newcastle to Senegal, and rode around North Africa. And that was the beginning of the big adventure-y kind of side of my life.
Right, but you've been riding bikes way before 2005, is that correct?
Oh yeah, I've had bikes since I was a kid in Liverpool. I was born in Liverpool but brought up in Ireland, half and half. Right. And I still have a house in Ireland, and I see Ireland as my sort of home base. Yeah. And today I'm in Newcastle upon Tyne, and so motorbikes, probably not like one of these people who've been on motorbikes since they were 5 and 10 or something like that, but certainly from 12, 13, 14, Honda 50s and mobilettes and also crummy bits and pieces, like council estate kind of stuff, not robbing them, dude. I mean, my own.
I make no judgments on this show. I only ask questions.
As soon as you say council estate and a Honda 50, it's got to be knockoff, hasn't it?
Well, okay. What sort of Honda 50 we're talking about? We're talking about a C50 step through.
Little step through, yeah.
Nice.
And I had a mobilette. Do you remember the mobilette? You pedal it to get it going. Yes. And I had a NSU. Is that non-specific euphoria? That's a sexual disease, mate. You can't talk about that.
I'll tell you what, listen, again, go see the doctor.
About that on here.
I'd say, look, we're going to be talking a little bit about that, your diseases, or how to fend off diseases when you're going off on your adventures. You see what I did there? You see?
Yeah.
That was
good switch.
Oh, good switch. Yes. Right, listen. Now, so you basically went off on your adventure off to Africa, right? So Had you ever done anything like this before, or did you think, right, got my KTM, I'm just going to go, and that was it?
Yeah, I'd never done anything like that before, and but I started watching in my divorce and I don't know whether you've been through that. Anyone listening, I'm sure loads of you have. Yeah. It's like pretty shit, you know what I mean? Yeah. And any distraction that you can get, and the big distraction in 2004, 2005 for me was Long Way Round. So this thing called Long Way Round came out, and I started watching it, and in fact I bought the DVD. And started watching it, but I was only drip feeding it to myself because the divorce thing was so horrible. I just needed so. And then I found this thing called Long Way Round. Ewan McGregor, Charley Boorman. Never really heard of Charley Boorman. Heard of Ewan because of Train Spotting and stuff like that. And I thought it just blew me away. I mean, and for me, seriously, it was. Watching that series was a life changer. And I know some of you out there saying, oh, you're just like smoking, blowing smoke up Charley Boorman's arse there, like, well, I have done that, put that to the side.
But you've since become all good friends, haven't you? You kind of work together. Now, tell me how that came about. You went to one of his shows, didn't you? And you kind of pulled him aside and said, "Look, you should be doing this a little bit better." I mean, is that the way it actually went down?
Yeah. So I was unemployed, really. I packed in the big job. Don't get me wrong. I had pretty good skills, and I was like putting myself out there a little bit and earning a few quid. But I was like, so I didn't have a job. I was just doing my own thing, and I was watching this Long Way Round, and I was only letting myself see 15, 20 minutes of it at a time, so I didn't waste it all. When you've got and you want to save the sweets, you don't want to get them all gone. And then later on, when everyone else has ate their sweets, you've still got sweets left. See?
I was never like that, mate.
I was a greedy bastard. You were a greedy bastard. And so anyway, I obviously when I seen this thing in MCN, in Motorcycle News, so Charley Boorman coming up to Squires. Squires is like a club pub in Yorkshire, and probably about 2 hours from here to maybe 3 hours from Newcastle. And I was mainly in Newcastle then. I'm sort of both in Ireland and Newcastle now, but I was mainly in Newcastle then because the divorce was still going on. And so I got on my bike and I rode down to Squires, and Charley was there, and he did this gig like chatting about Long Way Round, and Long Way Round was saving my sanity. Yeah. And I was so excited to be there. And anyway, got there, really packed. I mean, it was about, I think it was £7 or £8 a ticket, and it was chocker. And he was there in the crowd somewhere, like in the pub. You could hardly see him because there's no stage there, so he's just standing there. You couldn't hear him because he had no microphone, and he had one of them 5-foot screens, them little tripod screens that you have in the office when you're doing a little presentation in a little office. But it was only like 5 foot square, and he had a projector wired up. There was wires everywhere. You couldn't see what he was, projecting, and the clips that he had. If you're listening, Charlie, I apologize, okay, but the clips that he had were shit, and he had them on a DVD. He didn't have clips. He would just go forward on the DVD, and he'd say, "Oh, I want to show you this bit with Claudio Von Planter," and he would be fast forward and missing it, and then going back. Anyway, it was shit, and people were shouting, "We can't hear you, Charlie! We can't hear you, Charlie!" So I went to see him after the show and said, "Charlie, loved the stories, but to be honest, the actual show was a bit crap. But the stories were great, but it was a bit shit, really, wasn't it?" And he wasn't very happy with that. He was like a bit peeved, and he said, "What are you, some sort of like theatre producer?" And something went off in my head, and I sort of thought, wow, that would be good, wouldn't it? So I said, "That's exactly what I am, Charlie, a theatre producer. And I could take your little show here, your little evening with Charlie, and I could make it into something really cool. We could put it in a theatre, make it really proper." And Charlie was like, "Seriously?" And I said, "Charlie, you've got great content." And so we swapped phone numbers, and then I went down to London on the train, and I was all excited, but I was like, wetting myself a little bit because I'm not a theatre producer. But I just thought, Billy, work for Accenture, you get given a project, and the project could be anything, you just make it happen. So I just looked at it like a project. So I started analysing what you have to do to produce a show. Lights, audio, the whole shebang. And I started working out on a project, put a spreadsheet together, got off the train in London, and in London, this was 2005, remember? In London, in King's Cross, there used to be a machine that, and lots of you out there will remember this, I reckon, used to put a £5 note in this machine, and you would type in on the keyboard what you wanted on your business card, and it would print out 20 business cards there and then. You pick a template, put in your phone number and that. So I went, Billy Ward, theatre producer, phone number, bang, bish bosh bosh, got it out. Arrived at Long Way Round headquarters, which was like, wow, it's like amazing. It was like, you know, Mecca. And went in there. Russ Malkin came out. Charlie came out. Charlie was late, and Charlie wheelied through the door. The door opened like it's a shutter door. The shutter rolled up, and then Charlie wheelied through, like popped a wheelie into the headquarters, into the garage. And I was like, fuck, Jesus. And then Russ Malkin came in and gave me his card. So I went, oh, yeah. Card. And Russ Malkin was, wow, theatre producer, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, what kind of stuff do you produce? And I went, wow, you know, Russ, all kinds of stuff. And I was like proper on the back foot, basically. If he would have asked me another couple of questions on the whole theatre thing, I just would have collapsed.
So you're basically on the blag. You're on the blag. I
was completely on the blag. Sat down with Charlie. Charlie knows this now, so, you know, and I don't know about the Russ, but hi, Russ, love you still. And so we had a meeting, and I pulled together the theatre tour for Charley Boorman show, and we did, I think, 36 nights around the UK.
Yeah.
Actually, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, like literally all over to Scotland, crossed over to Ireland, and we finished it in Ireland, in Dublin, and it was fantastic. And basically, that theatre show went really well. We both made a few quid, got to know each other a lot better, became friends, and on the back of the theatre shows, I then started working with Charlie for all sorts of any other opportunity that I could think up. Like, let's go and ride Africa with Charlie. Let's go and ride South America with Charlie. Let's ride Morocco with Charlie, you know? And then all sorts of other opportunities that just came up along the way.
So were all these future projects, were you documenting them? Were they all filmed, or was that part of just yours and or Charlie's kind of Africa adventures experiences that he does?
No, they were purely me coming up with commercial models of how we could monetize Charley Boorman's celebrity status, and how I could make a life for me doing the same. So we don't get me wrong, we did loads of filming for this and this TV and that TV program, but we didn't actually make any documentaries as such. Like we did, you know, safety films in bike safety in Tasmania, and if you get on the Spirit of Tasmania now, that's the ferry that goes from Melbourne across to Tassie. When you get on that, they'll put a safety film on, and you've got Charlie and me on the safety film talking about bike safety riding across because everyone goes to Tassie to ride bikes, and they tend to ride them fast, and they have like big accident rates over there. So nothing commercial in the sense of doing a documentary, but odds and sods. Right.
So when they did Long Way Down, were you involved in that show? Because that's going through Africa, you know, where
would have given my right arm to be involved in that. But the way me and Charlie have sort of worked together is that, you know, his relationship with you and with Russ Malkin, apart from one or two things that I've got involved in, we generally keep that separate. Okay. So Charlie's got his stardom side of things over there with you and Russ and Long Way Down and Extreme Frontiers and By Any Means and all of that stuff. And I've really had very little to do with any of that. And we sort of had that as I'll come up with my commercial ideas of how we can do stuff, make some money. But to be honest, for me, was about having fun. Like do stuff that's exciting, have fun. South America, Africa, Central America, you know, like opportunities that I could just think up or make up. Like, you know, we took Charlie to Central America, to El Salvador, at the time the kidnap capital of the world. And I remember his agent rang me up and said, Charlie says you're taking him to the kidnap capital of the world, El Salvador. And I said, no. And I said, it used to be the kidnap capital of the world. Number one.
Now it's number 2.
Now. Well, now it's about number 5. I said,
Right.
so seriously, it's not what it was. And the agent was going on about, well, what about insurance and everything? Now it's going right. So we did loads and loads of cool stuff, and still do loads of cool stuff. But no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Charlie knows this. I'd give me right arm to have been involved all the way down and a long way up.
Yeah, because they've just finished that, haven't they? So that'll be coming to the air at some point.
Don't even say it.
Yeah, sure. Well, nobody's got any information on it, so nobody's talking about it, so it's fine. So we're not talking about something that has happened, but will come out. As simple as that, But anyway, listen, I don't really want to talk about it because I want to talk about you. You're the one at the start of the show. Now, it kind of links in with Charley Boorman and Ewan McGregor, because Claudio Van Planten, the cameraman, who actually, in my opinion, got he kind of really grew in those series. You actually went off on a ride with him, and you documented this ride into Iraq. Now, that sounds amazing to me. Tell me just a little bit about that.
Well, firstly, mega love out there to Claudio Van Planten.
Yeah,
he is
absolutely.
Absolute star. And I know for a fact, because, when you do the theatre tour with Charlie and you get, like, we were doing audiences of about 1,000 people a night. On the first tour we did another tour, and we weren't getting the same kind of numbers because, like, the peak of Long Way was starting to diminish, if you like. So, but I found that whenever we chatted to the audience about Claudio, they just adored him. They just loved Claudio. And Claudio's quirky, a bit odd, a bit weird, very clever, extremely professional cameraman, and really quite funny, often in a kind of naive way. And so me and Claudio have always been sort of mates, and not going way back to
sure,
out in the States in Liverpool, but since working with Charlie, I've got to know Claudio, and then we were just looking for ideas. Like, so I've done South America with Claudio, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, riding and filming, and then we came up with this idea, or Claudio came up with this idea. Why don't we do something a little bit more wacky? And that came from a drunken night in London. Drunken night in London with Claudio. We had lunch and with a few drinks, and then lunch carried on. This in Battersea. He lives around that area. We were just on the Thames, and then the evening happened, and we had dinner, and then we had more drinks. And during the drinking session, he said, "Billy, this Africa thing, you have this Africa thing in your head all the time. It's Africa, Africa, Africa. Why don't you go somewhere with meaning?" And I went, "Whoa, look at that. Bear in mind, we're drunk now, okay?" I said, "Meaning, Africa is the epitome of meaning. It's like incredible. The whole continent is full of meaning." And he goes, "Yeah, but what about the Middle East?" And I went, "Middle East?" And he goes, "Billy, you're a qualified safari guide. You can go anywhere you wish in the world." And I'm drunk thinking, I'm a qualified safari guide. I don't know what qualification that gives you to ride across the Middle East. But I said, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's go. He said, "Better than that. Why don't we go to Mosul and we'll witness the front line?" Now, bear in mind, this is a couple of years ago now. And so it was when the final battle was taking place, if you like, where ISIS were shoved into Mosul and cornered in Mosul. And incredible Kurdish army, the Peshmerga army, had them cornered with support from the coalition and that. But wow, that was proper. It was proper hot. And I said, let's do that then. Let's go there. And another glass of wine there, please, waiter. And then we just carried on.
So where did you start that trip from? Did you start it from London and you rode all the way through?
No. We flew into Iraq. And then,
right.
Gotcha. And then we got transport to. We had this idea of buying motorbikes in Iraq or renting motorbikes in Iraq. Pretty naive, really. And because you can't really just go and buy motorbikes in Iraq. No. You certainly can't buy an adventure bike or even a big bike. All of the bikes in Iraq are all small bikes. You've got illegal bikes where people have got their own bikes and they're sort of illegal. And but you can't literally go to a bike shop and say, "Can I have a KTM 790, please?" So we were a bit stymied with that. And so we went to the Iranian border, headed east to the Iranian border. And all the time we had a fixer over there who was looking for us and keeping an eye out for us. and he was our main contact. And he was looking for motorbikes for us, and we basically couldn't get bikes. So in the end, we did get bikes, but we rode from the eastern border with Iran, and then we basically rode across Iraq, and basically ended up in the Mosul front line, and that's where we stayed at the Mosul front line. We stayed with the Peshmerga, and it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever done in my life. And the Kurdish people, the north of Iraq is Kurdistan. And you know, they've had a hard life, generally speaking. If you search for the history of Kurdistan, you'll find it's you know, just littered with terrible, sad things. And yet, as usual in the world, these people, the Kurds, are just incredibly generous, welcoming. They looked after us. You know, we were obviously clearly in dodgy places, and yet you know, fine. I'll admit that occasionally I was a bit, you know, scared, but I always knew that these Kurdish people had their eye on us, and it didn't matter what village we were in, what mountain we were going across. I always felt secure because of the Kurdish people who were around us. And so big up to the Kurds, eh?
Oh, yeah. Fantastic, fantastic.
So,
and that was all documented, wasn't it? You've got that all on film or in a documentary format, or more of a ride-along type thing?
And we filmed it all. We filmed it all mainly Claudio filming us. So sometimes we had cameras on the bikes, we had cameras on helmets, we had a handheld camera. I would film Claudio, but generally speaking, it was Claudio filming the whole thing. Yeah. And we visited loads of people. We found out about the history of Iraq, the history of Kurdistan. We interviewed a general at the front line. I mean, literally in the background. I'm not saying there wasn't mud and bullets flying past us, but in the background you could hear the fighting, and we were sitting there interviewing this general, incredibly cool guy. You know, came from an ordinary job into the Peshmerga army, became roasted through the ranks, and he was a general in charge of thousands of men. And we interviewed him, and it was amazing. But I learned so much, and it really opened up. By the way, really, really does open your eyes to the history of the Middle East and the kind of shit that goes down in the Middle East. And the people who were to blame for it, and being frank, the people who were to blame for the ongoing sort of nightmare that became the Middle East are basically the British, and the French. And you could probably throw another couple in there, but the British and the French, when they split up the Middle East, you know, they drew a line in the sand and said, okay, that side's going to be yours, that side's going to be ours. And all the people who lived there said, whoa, well, hold on a minute.
Absolutely.
Here, like, you know, and
there's historical things that have gone on that putting a line on a map we're never going to solve. You know, and it's never going to be.
You see that all over Africa as well. Like,
absolutely. It's been replicated all over the world, hasn't it? Unfortunately.
But Claudio taking me out there to the Middle East and meeting people, like significant people who had a lot of history, a lot of and good narrative. You know, they could really tell you about their lives and about the history of their country in Iraq and Kurdistan, and it was an incredible experience and opened up my eyes. And since then I've read a little bit up about it, you know, to fill in the holes, like, you know. So it was a proper learning experience for me, and a bit scary. I
can imagine.
But you know, but pretty cool.
Will we, us mere mortals, ever see that on film somewhere or on TV screens? Or?
Two things. If Sky TV listening, because I know you're always listening to your show, Alf, you know, if Sky TV listening, Sky seeing that documentary, the clips that we brought together, and Sky said, wow, we love this. This is just, this is bollocks. This is like, you know, going out there. Where's next, Billy? Where's episode 2? Now, I thought we had about 6 episodes in that whole thing, at one trip. And they said, and I'm in a meeting in London with Sky, and I was all sort of thinking, wow, this is it. We've made it here. Me and Claudio are on a roll. And he said, where's episode 2? And I thought, episode 2?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden the penny dropped, and I realized what they're after. They're after episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I said, episode 2. Oh, yeah, of course. Episode 2, we're going to go to Nigeria. Yeah. And we're going to meet people in Nigeria, ride motorbikes in Nigeria, have fun, and we're going to find out about what this thing is, like Boko Haram. What is Boko Haram? And Sky went, wow, we love it. What episode 3, Billy? And I went, Oh, Jesus. Episode 3, of course. Yes, episode 3 is Central America. We're going to go to Central America, and we're going to get into El Salvador and find out how come they were the #1 kidnap capital in the world, and now they've dropped to #5. What's going on?
Yeah, what happened to the PIK or whatever they were called?
Exactly, yeah. And so Sky said, yeah, we love it, love it. And then a few weeks, I had a good chat with Claudio, and Claudio just said, say yes to everything. And I said yes to everything, and Claudio said, great, this is going to be awesome. We're going to give you a film crew. You're still going to do the same idea. The principal idea is Claudio is still the cameraman. And we're filming each other, but Claudio is the main cameraman. And the whole idea was to go to dangerous-ish places, not in a kind of show kind of way, but in a kind of naive way, and ride motorbikes and show that motorbikes are around the world are kind of like a common denominator.
Yeah, the bridge, isn't it? Yeah,
people together. And through the idea of the motorbike, we would meet people, have fun with people. Show the world, people watching, how ordinary these people are in Iraq, in Kurdistan, in Nigeria, whatever. Even when they're in times of adversity, when they're in a war zone, when they're in a heavily drug-centered place like Mexico or whatever. And that was the principal plan, and that was what we were going to do wherever we went. We were going to have fun on motorbikes, and it was all looking really, really cool. And it's still not dead yet. Hi, Sky. Hi. Ring me. And and then all of a sudden, Sky had a reorganization. The world of TV and online television streaming is literally been turning itself upside down for the last 3-4 years, or maybe even longer. People would say, but you look around you now with Netflix, with Amazon, with look at what happened to Top Gear going online. Look at Apple bringing out really pushing their new streaming services. The whole thing is turned upside down, and Sky went through a whole restructuring. And so the people that were looking after us in Sky, they sort of changed direction, and they moved jobs, and it all basically fell, not fell flat, but went into like the side burner, and that's roughly what it is. So, but I think that the content that we've got there from that Iraq trip, the Kurdistan trip, I think is awesome. I think it tells a tale. It's funny, humorous. It's got good banter with me and Claudio, and it's a little bit scary. I think it's got all the elements of a good watch.
It sounds fantastic. Well, certainly. I mean, everybody who's listening to this, obviously, I would always say, please like, share, subscribe to my channel. But I think it's most appropriate to let's get a petition together and see if we can put that show on the air somewhere. Would you ever consider? Now, I know this is going to go over YouTube and on the website at RevelatorAlf.com, by the way, but would you ever consider putting it on YouTube instead?
Yeah, absolutely. It would. I would, but it's sort of a shame because what we've got there is something I think is quite good, and we can use that as a lever to get episode 2, 3, 4 with a production company. If you give it to a production company, they've got it then. So they've got one in the can. And so there's your leverage in, that's your key in, and then we can look at episode 2, 3, 4. Whereas if you put the whole thing out on YouTube, you've already given the cake away, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if it doesn't go anywhere, I think YouTube is where it will end up, just to put it out there.
Or say Netflix. I know of another production. They're going around the world right now. Are trying to do bikes and show the lighter side of different communities and everything. But Netflix, get in there.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Can't we? As we used to say on TV, can't get enough of Bully or Billy. In your case.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Okay, listen. Are you ready for these a dozen questions about motorcycling and your adventures? Are you ready for them?
I am, but can I just say before we move off the Iraqi thing, is that I'm also now doing my own little one-man show, and my one-man show is on in Tasmania on the 13th of March in a little theatre. It's really, really cool. If you go to my Twitter or my Facebook,
there we go. I'll put that up for everybody. Yeah,
you'll find the details of it there. And it's all about that trip. It's all about my time with Claudio going to the Middle East and how it all worked out. And I did it at the ABR show, Adventure Bike Rider magazine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I did it in a couple of places in Australia last year. But this is the first time I've moved it from a motorcycle-based festival like the ABR Festival or the Perth Motorcycle Festival. This is the first time I've moved it into a theatre. So I've done loads of theatres with Charley Boorman, with Ross Noble. I used to manage a lot of Ross's theatre tours as a tour manager. And so I'm quite comfortable in theatres. But that's when someone else has taken the flak, you know, when Ross Noble's on stage. So this is the first time I've done it in a theatre, which is going to be pretty exciting for me, and I'm really looking forward to it. So in Devonport, Tasmania, 13th of March, be there or don't be there.
Yeah. But I was going to say, is it going to be a case of cold sweat and trembling fingers? Is it? Or?
I think I'm beyond that. I think I can do. The thing that you worry about going into theatres is the numbers. Yeah. So like if you do a gig, like the gig I did in Perth, I had about 400 people. So 400 people, that's pretty cool. I'm way more than happy with 400 people. 400 people is a nice size audience. And if it's in the right size room, that's a proper full house, you know. And I go by the odds. If I'm doing my little thing with 10 people, and let's say 20% of them or 30% of them don't like you, that's a fair few people in that room who don't like you. You know what I mean? There's only 10 people. If you've got 400 people and you've got a few people don't like you or don't think it's interesting or don't think it's funny, well then they're swamped by the bigger numbers. I think the stats are always on your side with a bigger audience. Like,
sure.
You know, you hear people saying, "Oh God, there's going to be 1,000 people in the audience," and I'm wetting myself. I would go the other way. I would say, "Oh my God, there's only 25 people in the audience," and I'm properly wetting myself. If there was like 500 people, it's like a winner. Like really.
Yeah. But I always see it like this. You know, people have actually come to see you. So you've already got them, you know, over the threshold. There's a kind of an expectation that they're going to want to enjoy it. Most people don't go somewhere to say, "Entertain me," you know, and that's it. Oh, you know, you can't entertain me. Okay.
You do get a bit of that though, but yeah, I agree.
Well, I suppose the only difference would be if you go to like a comedian or a magician or somebody. You know, so there are going to be some people say, "Yeah, go on, do your best." But most people go to these kind of shows because they're genuinely interested in what you've got to say.
No, for sure.
Well, I would. I'd go to your show and be genuinely interested.
Yeah.
But will you bring it to Europe? Will you do a European tour or a global tour? You know, one-man show.
Well, I'm doing the ABR festival later on this year with the show. A little bit. It'll be a little bit different than the first show, but it's going to be. I'm trying to polish it and see whether I could actually do what you've just said. Not go on a European tour, but actually like do like a mini tour with it. And the States would be really interesting. I'd be dead interested in taking my little show across the States and doing like. And there's loads of the adventure dudes out there who do it. Like Sam Manicom, he's a good friend of mine. Adventure dude, loads of books under his name. Really sweet guy. And you know, Sam's doing the adventure circuit in the States and does really well. And you know, he's a multi-millionaire now, and he's got yachts and you know helicopters and women. And
he wears a nice hat as well.
He always wears a nice hat. His mother won't let him out without that hat. His mother won't let him out.
Right. Anyway, well, I hope you have a one-man show around the world. I hope that you do go into all these different countries for speaking in foreign languages. I hope you're a bit of a Peter Ustinov. For those who are watching this, who are a little bit older, you might remember Peter Ustinov, a famous actor who spoke about 50 different languages, and he used to do a one-man show in all different languages wherever he went. So there we go. Start learning your languages, Billy.
I'm more of a Tom Jones man myself, like, you know what I mean?
What? Just sing. Right. Anyway, let's get these questions going. Are you ready? Are you ready to be probed?
I think I'm ready. I'm ready.
Right. Now, what motorcycle are you riding now? What are you going to be riding very soon? And what has been your favourite bike over the years? If you had a favourite bike, what would it be?
Okay, so I'm riding, I've got a Thruxton R, Triumph Thruxton R.
Nice. Very nice.
beautiful. It's like just a stunning. I don't even like riding it because it's just too nice.
Yeah.
To get it dirty and that. I know loads of people are going, no,
yeah. Well, you got the adventure bikes for that, the dirty stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's beautiful, and it sits in my living room next to my piano. So piano and the bike next to it, and so that's that. I've also got a 650 BMW rally bike, which is like pretty ancient, fully race prepared, as it were, with all the rally gear on. KTM. What have I got? I just sold KTM 990, so that's gone. I've got KTM 450, KTM 400, like enduro bikes. Do a little bit of enduro, just trying to keep my hand in.
Yeah.
And what else have I got? Oh, I've got a Beta 390 trials bike. And the trouble with bikes for me now is because I'm literally in the UK, probably 4 months, 5 months in a year.
Yeah.
That's I'm either in Africa, Australia, South America, and so there's no real point apart from them bikes that I've already got there. There's no real, I'd love a GS, 1250, the new 1250 HP or the older Rally or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's no real point me buying a bike here now. The bikes that I've got here now in the UK are fine, because when I'm in Africa, I'm riding loan bikes and or hired bikes, and so going back to the final bit of that question, is my favorite bike over the years is down to two, and one would be the GS 1250 or the GS 1200.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter for me. Both of them, that GS Beamer around the world, fine, it's a big bike, but if you can ride a bike, it's a big bike. If you can ride a bike, it performs awesomely. It can go in incredible off-road scenarios, and yet you can do 180 kilometers an hour on the freeway with all your luggage and feel quite relaxed and chilled and listen to music. So it's a proper round-the-world bike. And then the second one, going down into the mid-range, would be the Triumph 800, the 800 Adventure or the XC. Or now the new one, which I haven't had a go on yet. Hello, Triumph 900. I'm here for you. And so mid-range would be the Triumph, without a doubt. I think it's a proper class winner. That it's I've done a lot. I did about 50,000 kilometers on the Triumph 800, on the old 800, about 3 years ago, and did South America, Bolivia, Argentina, Chile, Peru. That bike never let me down. Just awesome, performed, handled, very forgiving bike as well. Like sort of, in messy, horrible, sandy gravel, and sometimes it was just sandy sand. And and never came off it. Very forgiving. Had a few near misses. Just a brilliant bike. So them two bikes would be the top of my tree. And I'm very fortunate. I'm very privileged because of what I do, that I often get loaned bikes. So there's no point me buying a Triumph 800 and leaving it in my garage in Ireland, or buying a GS 1200 and leaving it in my garage in England, because it's getting wasted. So
when you go off on let's say your trips, and let's say you're hiring a bike, or for the trip or whatever it is, do you try and hire a specific type of bike, or whatever's available at the time in whatever country you are?
To be honest, I know it sounds terrible, but to be honest, when you're doing this commercially, I really do not care if someone gives me a bike. As long as it's like a modernish bike and it goes, and it's not a lump of rubbish, I really don't care. If I have mega choices, if people say, Billy, do you want the 1250, or do you want the older 1200 BMW, or do you want the Rally, or I'll say, I want that one. I want that one. Sometimes I don't get the choice. Sometimes, and Triumph have looked after me. Triumph have been really, really cool. Australia, particularly Triumph Australia. I've done some shows in Australia, and Triumph have lent me a bike, and they've said, Billy, we've got a spare 800 XCA there, their 800 Adventure. Will that do you? And I went, wow, that's awesome. And they said, well, that's all we've got at the moment, but we can loan you that for while you're here. So I just jump in there with both feet and say a big thank you. And the last year they lent me the new Scrambler, the 1200 Scrambler. Wow, what an awesome, cool bike that is. I mean, it looks brilliant. It rides easy, and it performs off road. I mean, it's like nearly a proper scrambler.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, sure.
So I suppose what I'm saying is I get what I'm given.
Yeah, sure. Let me ask you on those bikes about them. Do you think that they are ultimately the bigger bikes I'm talking about? You know, the 1200, 1250 GS, or the 1200 Scrambler from Triumph, or let's say a Triumph Explorer, the bigger ADVs, whether they are really suited to proper off-road. I know that they're all capable. I know we can all ride them off-road. But I tell you, this is my feeling behind it. And I always used to say this on my channel and my writing as well. The big ADVs are great for all the reasons that you said. They are capable off-road. You can ride long distances. You can use them as a tour bike, whatever. But when you get into serious off-road type stuff, they're just too heavy. Just too heavy, too big, too bulky. By contrast, when you step down a little bit, even down to an 800, the 800 XEO, which I took into on the donkey trails in the mountains of Italy a couple of years ago, what a difference. What a difference. Would you say that these big bikes, although they look great, but are they really suited to the kind of stuff that you're doing as well?
Well, I think there's a whole debate in there. There's the big bike, small bike debate. If you look at, like, take an Austin Vince perspective, you know, Austin Vince, big bikes bad, small bikes are the only way to go. You know, take another perspective which says, oh, the BMW is the king of the adventure bike world, and it's the only way to go because you've got all your luggage and everything like that. You know, there's a couple of things where I would like to say on that is that I love Austin. I mean, Austin he's an entertainer. He's made an interesting life out of motorcycles, and but he gets a little bit narrow when it comes to big bike, small bike. I mean, I've been with Austin when he's been doing a talk at BMW in Guildford on stage, being paid by BMW, and still slagging them off. So he's made like I think a nice niche and a nice life out of BMW and Touratech and people like that. But he, to me, I don't care really. I love motorbikes. I love the whole two-wheel adventure. You know, whether that's messing around on a scooter, like we did the Sani Pass the other last year in Africa. It's a pass that goes from Lesotho, the kingdom in the mountains, down into South Africa. It's a horrendous pass. It's an incredible journey to do. It's only about 20 kilometers long, and yet it takes hours and hours to do it. And we met some guys coming up it on scooters, Vespers, you know, wheels this big, and on the Sani Pass, the holes are this big. So, you know, I was just like, wow, how cool are you guys? That's so cool, you know. And so for me to have, you know, to me, I'm not against Harleys. I'm not against big bikes, small bikes, you know. And so I don't take a heavy stand on it. What I would say is that, you know, if I had my KTM 450 in Africa, doing the trip that I do every year in Africa, there's some parts of that trip that would be incredible on that KTM. I would be back hanging on thinking, wow, this is so cool. And, you know, and you know, it would be absolutely made for it. Like, you know, parts of the Cedarburg for any South African. There's parts of the Cedarburg in South Africa, awesome. Parts of Namibia in the sand, fantastic. But after you've done that bit, and then I've got, like, you know, 300 kilometers of pretty straightforward gravel, you know, with the occasional twist and turn, I'd be sitting on that KTM going, vibrating,
absolutely,
and on a seat that's like a blade, isn't it, basically? And I would be pretty uncomfortable. But I can do all of that together on the 1200 on the BMW, all of it. I can do the sand, I can do the muddy river crossings, I can do the gravel ascents, descents, I can do it all. Fine, the KTM will do that bit better, the little KTM will do that bit better. But I know I can do the whole trip from Cape Town all the way up through the Cedarburg, all the way across into Namibia, right through Namibia, down into Botswana, across into Zimbabwe, and finish in Victoria Falls. I can do all of that on the BMW or the 800 XEA, and it will perform amazing throughout it all. I'm a reasonable off-road rider. I'm not a good off-road. I wouldn't say I'm a good off-road, but I'm pretty reasonable. Maybe even a little bit more than the average. But I would say if you're going to enjoy the GS, you need to have done a little bit of off-roading. You need to have done a school at least, like you know, Davies off-road school in Wales would be, you know.
Sure.
But once you've got that little bit of skill, you know, it's incredible what them big bikes can do. And so I don't take a big hard stance on the big bike, small bike.
No.
Any bike. My garage has got it. You know, Charley Boorman always says you need a bike for each of your moods. You know, and it's all about having a bike that you want to use on that particular occasion. So and I think it's a trap also. I think it's a trap to get too hung up on the big bike, small bike thing. You know, it's okay. And I think people like Austin, like, firmly place themselves into that groove, and I think you're trapped in that groove. Then any bike, and even if I arrive in some place and people say, and they say, Billy, I'm sorry, but all we've got for you is this, and you go, shit. But then you get on the bike, and then once you start riding and smile and the wind, and you think, we're on a bike.
I'm exactly the same. I think any bike. I've always said this in my early videos as well. I said any bike, anywhere, anytime. Doesn't matter. Who cares? I mean, who cares? I mean, basically, some bikes are going to be suited, as you say, to certain sections of riding or certain types of riding more than others. Yeah. But unless you're going over big boulders and things like that, and I always say, if it's relatively flat, hard-ish, compacted trails, any bike will do it to a certain degree. And harder the trail, more compacted it is, you ride any bike, no problem at all.
It's funny enough, off-road, it's the same with tyres as well. As long as it's not clay mud, tyres, we fit TKC 80s on all the GSs. Me and Charlie, generally, not always, but generally, that would be our tyre of choice for the Africa trip. And they're all brand new. And the TKC is quite an aggressive, good wobbly tyre. But by the time me and Charlie get to Swakopmund, which is probably Cape Town, about 2,500 kilometers, by the time me and Charlie get to Swakopmund, I swear you wouldn't believe our tires. The rear tire, them TKCs, they're quite soft compound. Yeah, they perform brilliantly, but they go pretty quick. And me and Charlie have arrived in Swakopmund. That's in Namibia on the west coast there, like sort of about halfway up on the journey to Victoria Falls. And they're baldy. I mean, completely baldy. And you can see clients, like riders who are riding with us, will walk past the bike and go, "Oh, Jesus, Billy, that's wow! What do you do, man? I mean, I've got another 2,000 kilometers to go, you know." And the point I'm getting to is that me and Charlie say, "Heck it, just carry on." And we'll carry on with that tire all the way up to Victoria Falls, and
it's 12 hours.
I'm sorry, that's my clock.
Right.
And through the gravel and through river crossings and everything. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is that once you've bedded into the bike and you're comfortable with the riding style, with the bike style, with the terrain, even tires for me tend to dial out. And I don't come into this end in the gravel on the DS and think, "Oh shit, I've got a baldy tire." I just do what I normally do, and the tire will be spinning and the bike will be sliding a little bit, and you'll be smiling and you just enjoy it. But if I was going to do an event or something, it's fine, but the point I'm making is tires, bike, it's sort of, if you're into the bikes, it sort of doesn't matter what the tire is, it doesn't matter what the bike is, as long as you can ride it and you're in a nice place and you're with nice people, you can just have fun on it, you know.
It's interesting to say about the tires. I had the Triumph Explorer, and I, as soon as I got it new. And as soon as I got it, I said, right, I'm not going to ride this just down the supermarket. This has got to be a proper bike. It goes, goes everywhere. So I did. I just started taking it everywhere, and I did 7,000 miles on the standard, road tires that it had on it, and then eventually I changed them for a set of Michelin Anarchy Wild tires, which are great. But people said, "Oh, there's a much better tires." I said, "Look, they're only much better for about 5% of your riding. Virtually 10% of your riding. and that's in, you know, so when you get into serious off-road, when it's sort of clay stuff and all, you know, that sort of stuff. I said, but most of the time, the standard roadish tires are absolutely fine. They'll go. I said, especially if it's relatively dry, they'll go anywhere. In fact, look, watch my videos. I used to say, watch my videos. I went everywhere on those tires. So, tires are a big thing, but at the same time, it's just like any bike. You know, we can make a bit too much of it, I think. You know,
you just add into it. I did a little demo for a load of riders once in Africa in clay, in wet clay, and everyone was really quite anxious. And we put brand new TKCs on it, big knobbly tires.
Yeah.
I went through this clay track, and I got all the riders to stand at the side and said, "Look, guys, you need a little bit of confidence here and a little bit of throttle control, and but a steady throttle. Think of it like going through sand, even, because if you just keep it on and keep looking ahead." And through probably a bit too fast and everything, and the bike was squirming everywhere. Brand new TKCs, and really cool. Went through, showed that I was going around a bend and going quite fast, and came back. And I said, "See, guys, you know, you just need a little bit more confidence, because a lot of it's psychological. Looking at this terrible clay." And another 2 or 3 riders arrived, and he said, "Billy, show them that again, will you? Because we're all gobsmacked how you fast went through the end and everything, that thick, slimy clay." And I went, "Yeah, okay." So I turned around and I came back again. And as I came through them, I put my hand up and went, "Woohoo!" to, like, showing off, basically. And the front wheel went zoom from under me, and the whole bike just went sliding on the clay. And I was still half on the bike, no panniers or anything, and slid all the way up, basically at their feet, and stopped the bike there. And I was like covered with red clay. And I said, "There you go. That's how to do it. See, everyone got that now." And like, they were taking the piss for the next 2 weeks, like, you know.
Yeah.
But I think the point I'm making there is that when you're in the really, really slimy stuff, these were brand new TKC 80s. When you're in the really, really slimy, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what you've got on, because if you've got knobbly, it'll clog up. If you've got
exactly right,
they all clog up, and even the spokes are clogged up. The disc is clogged up, and you know. Yeah,
it just gets everywhere, sticks it. That's exactly what I used to say as well. These big knobbly tires, as soon as they're full of mud, that's it. Forget it. You know, just you're slipping and sliding all over the place anyway. Look, all your adventures, all your riding, fantastic, right? And we've talked a little bit about your history, but if you could pinpoint one particular ride or one particular trip as being your best time riding, would you be able to do it? Or is it your next? Is it a case of, well, my best time will be my next time riding?
I think there's two answers there, in a sense. And one is, what was one of the most of a lifetime experience, if you like, was the Iraqi trip, driving across Kurdistan. You'll find out more about it, but we were on Honda 800 police motorcycles, which is quite bizarre, and we haven't got time to go in it all. So the bikes wouldn't have been my choice. They were road bikes with police on, and sirens and blue lights and aerials and gun holsters and everything. From an experience point of view, not with the bike, but with the place, was incredible. And meeting the Kurdish people and the Iraqi people was phenomenal. But really the true love of my life is Africa, and to ride Africa, and I'm so privileged that I ride Africa every year, twice a year. I've only been back 4 or 5 days, so from Africa, and to ride Africa, and I'm talking about the continent of Africa. So the whole of Southern Africa. I'm very familiar with the whole of Southern Africa, like Namibia, Lesotho, Zambia, Mozambique, Malawi, South Africa, Botswana. I feel very comfortable in all that. And as you're riding through them countries, and not even the countries, not even from country to country, when you're riding through a country like Namibia, for example, the cultures change and the people change as you go through. Even just a few hundred kilometers, you going through tribal areas where you'll meet Herero women, a famous tribe in Namibia, and you'll interact with that culture. You go a bit further, and there's the Himba tribe, and you come across the Himba tribe, and the same in Zimbabwe. As you're going through Zimbabwe, you're crossing different boundaries within the country and meeting different people and sensing a different culture, sensing a different, even different language. And I just find Africa just incredible. That all of, you know, and any negatives you hear about Africa, even South Africa, you know, with the high crime rate, it's offset, completely offset by all of the good stuff. And the top layer on top of that is your wildlife. So
sure.
You riding down, and clients who ride with us, riders who ride with us, we're riding down the track. And I'm a qualified safari guide now as well. Over the years, I got so into this whole thing in Africa and wildlife, and so I decided to train. So I trained to become what they call a Fagasa guide, a registered Fagasa guide. And you're riding with a group of people. You're not going crazy, just riding through these like a forest on gravel. And then I have to slow everyone down because I'm always like reading the situation. And there's a breeding herd of elephants crossing the track in front of us, which A, is amazing, and B, is quite dangerous. I mean, you know what you're doing, really. Like, so we stopped all the bikes, we got them in a good getaway position, and we kept calm. And then the elephants realized that we weren't going to give them any hassle, and slowly they all walked past us, and with babies, and a couple reared up on us and give us a bit of a shout and the big ears and everything, like, you know, and just giving us a bit of a warning. But generally, you know, the wildlife in Africa as part of your adventure adds a whole new layer, a whole new dimension. And that's a massive winner for me. And you know, in terms of my future, if I get more opportunities to get more involved on that side of stuff, maybe using my safari guide qualification, whatever, well, that's what I would like to do more, because it's fantastic. So fulfilling. Yeah,
fantastic. So you do that, so how many times a year do you do these trips into Africa?
We're made up out of February of every year. We do an Australia ride, either an outback ride, or in this year it's the Tassie ride. So we ride in a few weeks, just in a couple of weeks' time. I fly to Australia on Thursday, and I'll be prepping all of the garments and working with the guys on the bikes, getting the bikes ready. And then we do a really nice road tour of Tasmania. We go over on the ferry, the Spirit of Tasmania, which is pretty cool, into Devonport, where I've got my one-man show. And then we do a really cool tour of Tasmania, some of the best roads you would ever ride tarmac-wise in your life. And then we come back onto the mainland and we head up into the snowy mountains, go through Bright, and then we go down to the coast and we finish in Sydney. So that's February. And then the whole May, I do my own tours in Morocco. So the whole May, I have 3 tours in Morocco, mainly road, but with gravel options. So that's my May gone. And then
people can book that through your website, right?
It's actually not, they can't book it through my website, but if they go to my website, they'll find information out of there. Or if they email me at billy@biketruck.com, or if they go on my Twitter or go on my Facebook. And then in August, September, me and Charlie do the big Africa trip. So that's like from Cape Town up to Namibia, into Botswana, cross into Zimbabwe, finish in Victoria Falls, and then we do a second trip back down again, but slightly a different route. We come back completely different way and end up in Lesotho, come down the Sani Pass, back onto the bottom of South Africa, and then along the Garden Route. And then every couple of years we do South America, which is basically Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. So and that's my year. And in between actually doing the tours, then I'm either doing theatre shows with Charlie, doing my own theatre show, doing bike festivals, or doing bits of consultancy. I do little bits of consultancy in the bike world, and so that's my year. So follow me on Twitter at Bike Truck for loads of bits and pieces of bollocks and information, and Facebook. And if you look at Charlie at Charley Boorman on Twitter and on Facebook, and of course on Instagram, we're always pushing out there, you know, sort of what's next, you know.
Fantastic. I mean, I follow you on Twitter quite a bit, and I mean, it's great always to see, you know, what you're up to, and you know, every now and again I give a little cheeky little comment, you know, just to say, don't do that, Billy, don't do that. Right. Listen, here's another question. I suppose we kind of touched on it a little bit about different bikes that you get on these trips. Do you take stock bikes? Forget about tires for a minute. We've already talked about tires. But do you just take stock bikes, or do you kind of modify them a little bit? Do you prep the bikes in any way? Or do you think, right, no, this is a bike, I'm just going to ride it?
They're all stock bikes. The only mods we'll put on is I'm a great fan of the Garmin Zumo. The 595 or the 650, the old one. And so all of our bikes on all of our tours, whether it's Morocco, whether it's in Africa, Southern Africa, whether it's South America, whether it's in Australia, we will all have a Garmin Zumo fitted. And we've worked with Garmin Zumos for years and years and years. And basically, one of the big differences that I think makes our tours a bit different, apart from having Charley and things like that, is that all of our tours are Garmin led. So the Zumo, every day, the tour, the day's ride, let's say I would say most of our rides are 300 to 400 kilometers a day.
Right.
And that day's ride will be in the Zumo. And what that does, and I don't like it, and I've done press launches and done loads of bike press launches and that, and even me, who's I think a confident and reasonably competent rider, I don't like group riding, especially when you get a few bollockheads in the group. And it becomes a real macho kind of, race kind of thing. Yeah. And even if it's only under the surface, it's often there. No one called it a race, but if you put two blokes on bikes, it's not far off a race.
Yeah.
But if you give them the opportunity that, look, you just follow this line, it's very clear. And we train people, by the way. We have on day one, we have a whole session all about how to use the Garmin, how to feel comfortable with the Garmin. And we will show people that you can click on go, and then you can go on your merry way. You can ride fast, you can ride slow, because you don't need to worry about keeping up with the guy in front, and you don't need to worry about losing the guy behind you. So we still have, like, I'll ride in the group and Charley will ride in the group, but we don't necessarily ride at the front of the group. Sometimes I will, sometimes Charley will. But at the end of the day, I will always be the tail end Charley. So even if I'm in a group, I know that there's 8 bikes behind me. If there's 8 bikes behind me, they could be spread out over 25K. And I'll pull over and have a little bit of a rest and wait, and I'll count them 10 bikes or 8 bikes, whatever it is, so that I'll end up tail end Charley. And then also we have a support vehicle. So that support vehicle is always, always, always last man standing. Right. So it doesn't matter, whether you ride fast, whether you ride 2 or 3 of you riding fast together. There's 1 or 2 of you riding slow together, stopping to take photos. I mean, animals, you want to stop and take photos of zebras and oryx and elephants and things. And the Zumo gives you that capability, gives us that capability on our course. So that's number 1. And the second thing I outfit on all the bikes, and so does Charley, is the quad lock. So we use the quad lock. If you look at this here, so this is a microphone stand, but I actually have a quad lock on there. Sure. Because the quad locks are really cool. You can put them sort of anywhere, and the quad lock means that I can have my iPhone on my handlebars, and it means that if something happens or if someone's trying to get me in an emergency, I can visually see that the iPhone's ringing, and I can pull over.
Great, those quad locks.
I don't use neither Charley use any intercom system between each other. I think we would just be like screaming at each other all the time if we did that. Whinge like old women. But that's it. A quad lock, which is, I feel really desperate if I haven't got my quad lock on. So get the quad lock, get the iPhone on, and get the Garmin on, and that's the only. Maybe a tail pack for if there isn't anything. I'm a great believer in not tying shit to the bike. I've had a few instances over the years with either me or with people on a trip tying stuff to the bikes and it coming off and getting caught in the back wheel and that. So if it's made to fit a bike, cool. So like a BMW tail pack on a GS, they're really, really cool, because I'll carry puncture repair kit, spare inner tube, set of tools, little CO2 canisters and things like that, so that when I'm riding with the group, we can plug a tire. Most tires are tubeless now, so you can plug them, fix them in 10 minutes. But that's about it. No, we don't do anything else. And I'll mess around if it's on a GS, I'll mess around with the suspension a little bit just as I'm riding when I get bored, and just see what does this feel like, what does that feel like. But no, just a bare bones bike, really.
Let me ask you a question. You've already sort of discussed with about your relationship or how you met Charley Boorman and all the other guys and everything like that. But with all your sort of future rides, are they always planned to be on or asked to go on what Charley's rides are? Is it like planned ahead, like 2 or 3 years in advance, or is it like spur of the moment thing? Right, okay, I'm doing my Morocco thing, and then does he phone you up and say, look, we're doing this trip here, can you come and do it? Is it that kind of relationship, or is it much more structured than that?
It's pretty much all planned, really. Sort of, I'll do stuff like I'll do recce rides quite often. Like, so I did a recce ride just 2 months ago. I wanted to had a few people who were interested in doing a bit of Africa. Sorry, gin.
That's all right. Gin.
And, just a bit. And they wanted to do the garden route of South Africa, but they wanted to do it completely on road. And I know the garden route in South Africa quite well, but I know it all, or majority of it, off road.
Right.
Because basically most of our stuff is off road. And so I went over and did a recce and looked for better ways of doing it that would get rid of a lot of the gravel and just do some focus on tar. And that's what I've just been up. I just got back last week from doing a couple of week trip around the garden route with a group of guys who and that was a sort of ad hoc one. That was something that just sort of came up out of nowhere, really. And the garden route is now a really nice little set of a really nice little trip now, all boxed off, because I've done it. I did the recce, then did the trip, and so I know it really well. I know it gravel wise, and I know it road wise. And then occasionally, so last year I thought we need to there was a lot of bad weather in Southern Africa for the year previous, and we had loads of information coming through, drip that this road is now not passable, this river is not passable, bridge over this river that you normally go across has fell down. And so last year I went and did a recce on my own. Triumph were really supportive. Triumph gave me a Triumph XCA, and I basically went from Cape Town up to Victoria Falls and back again. That's 10,000 kilometers, and I recce the whole route, looking for different workarounds and different options, so that when we get to a river, if the river is too high, how can we get around it and that? But so a lot of the recce's tend to be a little bit off the hoof and a little bit more wild. Quite like riding on my own. I know it's not a recommended thing, but I quite like being out in the desert on my own, or in the bush in Africa on my own. It's like quite a nice. There's something quite exciting about just being on your own and having to deal with whatever it is.
No, I'm exactly the same in many ways. I enjoy being with other riders as well, but not so much on the road. I don't really mind either way. I don't really have a thought either way, actually. I mean, most of my riding is by myself, but when I went off road, or most of my time off road, most of it is just being by myself, and I quite enjoy just figuring it out for yourself. And I think I'll tell you what I found this, and maybe kind of going off tangent here, but the what?
No, go on, carry on.
No, I would say, what I tell you what it did for me, or what it does for me when I go off road by myself, is that you're very much aware of your decision making. To say that actually, if I get this wrong, I'm right here in the middle of nowhere by myself. Right, what is a better plan? So you're always kind of, hatching up little plans, and you're trying to, not necessarily take the easiest route, but take, the most appropriate route for you being by yourself.
No, but I mean, I did a little clip, funny enough, that I just thought of it then. I came around this bend. It was in a place called Wuppertal. For riders in South Africa, they'll have heard of Wuppertal. It's just an incredible ride. It's like quite enduro style, borderline for the big bikes. but we do it on the big bikes. It's an option. You get into the Cederberg in South Africa, and you can basically take a fork right, and it goes to a place called Wuppertal, or you can fork left, and it carries on good gravel. The road to the right is quite hardcore with river crossings, sometimes a bit deep. Anyway, I came around this bend, and I was like quite cocky on the Triumph 800 XEA, and I came around the bend, and I was like proper on it, feeling quite good about myself. Been riding for weeks on the trip, and I was just alone. And as I came around the bend, a little bit broadside, feeling, oh, how cool am I? And then there was a washout in front of me, like a massive washout, like maybe 3-4 feet wide by maybe 3 feet deep, like where the river is just, a rain has made a river across the road, and the washout was just like an earthquake. And I went, shit, and I was like front brake, back brake, front brake, back brake, so ready to put the bike down. I didn't put it down, Triumph, okay? So don't be coming back to me about that. There was no damage on that bike. And
that old chestnut, I got you.
The front wheel dropped into the hole. I literally came around and, thinking, shit. And then got to the edge of it, and it just dropped into the hole, and I never come off. And I was like, oh my God, my heart was pounding, because if I would have come off there, I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere. No one, you'd be pretty lucky for someone to come across you, And if you had a bad incident there with a broken leg or, whatever, you could be in big shit. But you know what? It did two things. It gave me a massive injection of adrenaline and really made me feel alive. And it also made me calm down a little bit. Because when I had to get around this washout then and carry on, I had another 200-300K to go. And I rode a lot steadier.
It's funny, isn't it? It's funny. You have these little moments, and you think, hold on then, steady on now. Yeah. Okay, listen, this is a next question, because how do people respond to you when you're riding in distant lands, and what kind of preparations do you make for yourself physically or whatever, when you're going out on these trips?
Okay, well, firstly, preparation wise, I tend to try and stay fit. So I go to gym, I do a little bit of running, I do spinning classes.
Yeah, so do I, Billy. So do I.
And I try and stay fit, and then I read a fair bit. I don't know whether you can see or whether I can do this, but like all of my walls.
All right, yeah.
Of maps, and I like maps. That's South Africa and Namibia. And so, like when I went to Iraq, when I went to Kurdistan, I read up on stuff, So preparation wise, I like to know why the Herero women dress like this in Namibia. I like to know why the Himba tribe dress like this. I like to know what's happening to the currency in Zimbabwe, because the currency just basically fell apart, and then they ended up on the US dollar, and I like to know why that is. So I do a little bit of reading, a little bit of prep. I like to find out a bit about the politics of somewhere. So the politics in Iraq and in northern Iraq, pretty interesting. And then in terms of when you're riding and meeting people, it's really sweet if you can know the odd word in their language. Sure. Like Corsa in South Africa or in Southern Africa. In South Africa last week we were talking a waiter, and Corsa, one of the main languages in South Africa, they have a click. They click, when they speak, clicking noises. It is so cool. It's so cool. And you can always have a good laugh with a waiter or a barman or a waitress, whatever, when they're ordering and when they're talking, and you try and talk back to them with a few clicks and that. And so what I'm saying is, it's sweet if you know a little bit about their culture, if you know a little bit about their politics. Like you get to South Africa and you can talk about Cyril Ramaphosa. Like what's the new president like compared to Zuma?
Zuma, sure.
Was a bit of a disaster, really. And or if you're in Zimbabwe, you can talk about the currency. I hear the currency is they've got a new idea with the currency, and the taxi driver, the Uber driver, whatever, he'll be saying, oh yeah, this is what's happening, and we're not very happy, and it's, you know, so a little bit of knowledge helps an awful lot. But apart from that, I always just try and have a bit of fun, like try and be funny, try and be friendly, smiley with people. Like, you know, the whole time we've been in Africa, I've been going to Africa now since 2005, 6, and 2005, and we are the whole time, all over Southern Africa and North Africa, Mozambique, Morocco, Mauritania, Senegal, Mali. I have never, ever had an incident, like an aggressive incident, like a situation where I thought, shit, we're in trouble here. But I have had trouble in London, you know. I did get trouble in Dublin one night. I did get something stolen in Paris in a restaurant, and I've never ever had an incident, like a nasty incident, in Africa. And I'm pretty sure Charlie hasn't either. I think Charlie would probably back me up on that. And so the point I'm making is that, you know, places around the world are far, far more safer than what we're led to believe. You know, we're led to believe, like, you know, even South Africa, everywhere has its rules as well. You know, there's rules. I'm here in Newcastle upon Tyne. There's, you know, at midnight tonight, there's probably places to be in Newcastle on Tyne that you probably shouldn't be. You know, it's dodgy. Same for Liverpool. Same for Manchester. Same for London. Same for South Africa. And if you follow them rules, if I don't go to that dodgy place tonight in London or in wherever, I'll probably be fine. And the same as in lots of countries around the world, that lots of places around the world, like in South Africa, there's places in, I feel very comfortable in South Africa, yet it has a massively high crime rate. Some of the crime in South Africa is pretty full on crime, you know? And but a lot of it is gang related. It's a lot of it is within groups of people that are already, if you like, baddies. And I, you know, I just find that the world is just so much safer than. And if someone says, "Oh, Mexico, don't go to Mexico," or "Oh, Iraq, don't go to Iraq," to be honest, that's just like saying to me, "Go and buy a ticket," you know, go and get out and go. And, you know, I'm not frivolous. I'm not like stupid. You know, I keep an eye out for myself, and I keep an eye out for clients when we're in dodgy places or places that are a little bit dodgy. And part of my job is to keep an eye on people and make sure that we're all safe. You know? I
mean, do you do prior to trips or prior to going to somewhere for the first time, do you do like security research and medical research? You know, we got you know, there are diseases all over the world, right? So do you kind of have to make a risk assessment of that, or do you have to prepare yourself? Now's the time to get out the prop if you want to, you know, all that kind of stuff. Is that in your thinking, or do you think, like, you know what, we'll be fine? You just take the normal precautions, we'll be fine.
I think we do that, and I do that, but not in a kind of significant way that you would think. Much more in a much more casual way, much more informal way. It is a typical good example, isn't it? Australia. We're all off to Australia. Our ride around Tassie and the high country and the snowy mountains. That's going to be an incredible ride. But of course, at the same time, the fires have been raging in them parts of Australia. But the mass media that you look on social media and on the internet, it makes you believe that the whole of Australia is now a fireball. And you know, and oh my God, why are you going to Australia? What? You mad going to what? Why are you? You know? And of course, so we're aware of what's going on in Australia. We're aware that it's still specific regions, and it's not the whole of Australia. And we need to be aware of that, so that if we look at and bear in mind, our partners are in Australia, so they live in Australia. Business partners for doing that ride, and so we're always have been this last few months monitoring the situation in Australia, monitoring it against our route, and not are the fires there now, but are the fires likely to be heading in that area when we get there on February the 19th and February the 20th, I think it is, and And so we're aware of it, and we're looking for strategies that we could need to change our route if need be, etc.
Sure.
So that's common sense, being aware of stuff. What was another interesting one? Well, basic stuff like malaria, sort of when me, and I don't think Charlie does here, but he can answer for himself, but I don't take any anti-malarial now because I'm in Africa that long that the anti-malarials will be doing me more harm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Risk of because it's all about mitigation, isn't it? All the time you mitigate risk, whether you're going across the street with your kids to the shops, mitigating risk, holding their hand, looking for cars, teaching them about, that's mitigating risk, or you're doing a ride across Australia and you've got the fires, or even now, I mean, and I don't want to be flippant with it, but all of the stuff now about diseases, we're talking about diseases with the coronavirus, it's clearly an issue. It's clearly all over the internet. I think it's possibly drammed up by us all. It's like I was in Dubai a week ago, and Dubai felt a little bit like they were all waiting for Armageddon. Probably at least a third, maybe more, were all wearing masks, and the whole debate about the masks is an interesting one. Anyway, whether they do any good,
the majority don't. That's the thing.
The majority don't, and even the ones that do only work for about 20 minutes, half an hour, because then they get so full of moisture that they lose their capability and they're not sealed properly, and then you're touching the mask all the time, and then afterwards you're touching your face. So of course we're monitoring that, and I'm monitoring that because I've got 3 kids. I don't want to. Go and get coronavirus and die. I don't want to get malaria and die. But we make decisions all the time. We mitigate risk all the time. And so they're the kind of, if you like, informal day-to-day decisions about our trips and about my trips, about where I'm going, what am I doing, what about terrorism, what about storms? I mean, but we don't have, maybe your question was alluding to, we don't have the security company that we contact and we employ them as consultants, and we certainly don't do that, but we have got a lot of contacts in that area for obvious reasons, for when you're doing a documentary and stuff like that. But no, I think we're still pretty informal but clever about it, and well connected. Connected.
We talked about a little bit where your best places to ride and your best moments and all that kind of stuff. Has there been a worse place? The place you think, what, I am never going to ride there again. Never. For whatever reason. The roads, the trails, the people, whatever.
No, not really.
No, you haven't.
No, I mean,
I'll tell you what, you try coming down to rural Berkshire, mate. I can tell you a story or two.
I think the irony is that, the worst place that you rode through, the worst nightmare day, or the hardest day, or the day you fell off, or the day you got 3 punctures. We went through a place in Juliaca. There's a town in South America called Juliaca, and sorry if you're listening, Juliaca, but it was in Peru or in Bolivia. Anyway, and it was just a nightmare town to ride through. Just a nightmare. It was just so crazy. And a big gang of us, and they're all. I waited out on the edge of the town till everyone came together, and we agreed that we're going to go through the town together, so that we're sort of together, because it's a bit of a cowboy town, and in South America, and it was like proper to get through and out the other side. You felt like you'd really accomplished something, and everyone was saying how terrible it was, and yet, but that's the day that everyone remembered. That's the day we had a fantastic hard day, challenging day, and then we had to go through this crazy South American town that was, there was a train track going through it, there was slums in it, there was dodgy looking people there. It was everything, and it was brilliant. The same applies to the days that we've had hard days in Africa, where the sand has been more than it used to be because we've had bad weather, or the river crossing was more challenging than it used to be, and people have fell off, and then the the bike engine sucked in all the water, and we had to take the plugs out, and we were like 3 hours late, and it ended up all these terrible things. That's the day that you talk about. That's the day that you remember fondly, and that's the day that you were stretched and you got through it, and it's always good when you go and do something that the media, that the world news says that you shouldn't do. I always feel that's a win. If you go to Iran and the world news says Iran is full of like horrible murdering people, and clearly it fucking isn't. That some of the most generous people you'll ever come across. Same in Iraq, same in Kurdistan, And so I'm a great believer in taking with a little bit of salt, like a pinch of salt, everything I read and I question everything. And the whole coronavirus thing, and I'm not saying it's not a big scene. It clearly is a big scene, but 8,000. Well, I'll give you another figure. Sort of over 300,000 children died last year in Africa of measles. Over 300,000 children dead, just gone with measles, a completely fixable disease with the right approach. Absolutely. And so 300,000 dead. That's not on the news. Yeah, that's right. So what if 500 people have died?
Yeah, it's over 1,000 now, something like that.
Now, I think what I'm trying to say is we need to get perspective, and the coronavirus thing could escalate and be something much bigger than a big thing.
Absolutely.
It could just become another flu, like another dangerous flu.
Flu kills millions around the world annually. Just your average flu kills millions.
Question it. I'm not saying it's a load of bollocks at the moment.
No. But it's about perspective, as you say.
Something that is much bigger than what I think it is at the moment. So I'm up for that. So don't slag me down, but question it. And the videos go around. People are sharing videos on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and half of it's bollocks.
You've also got to consider. I get this impression whilst I speak with a lot of doctors and medical professionals on a daily basis, and they kind of explain to me what it is and crucially what it isn't. And what hasn't really come out in the media so much, they're starting to touch on it now, is that actually you go to these places, let's say, and not everybody's just dying as soon as they contract a disease, or in this case coronavirus. Most of the people are either overly exposed, like that doctor who's just been overly exposed, or they're just frail, infirm people anyway. So there's you've got to have more information, more informed information. Yeah, it's a new thing. That's why they're scrambling around to make sure that it doesn't spread out. But again, perspectives.
We're watching it. Like, I'm in Dubai on Thursday, so I'm curious to see what Dubai's in a week.
Yeah,
where clearly it's escalated to some degree. So I'm curious now. There was about maybe a third of people wearing masks, maybe a bit more than that.
Yeah,
and I'm curious now when I get there on Thursday. I'm only there for an overnight, but I'm curious how that's going to look on.
Yeah, I mean, the whole face mask thing really started, when the first kind of thing started, was just the SARS, wasn't it? When that sort of started break out, then they all started wearing face masks, and then they had a few other like ricin attacks and everything, and everybody started donning those, and said, "Well, that's not going to help you. That's not going to help you, I'm afraid." So yeah. Okay, look, let's move on.
Can I show you my mask?
Oh yeah, go on, please. Please do.
This is the one. This is the one that I've got for. I'll just get it here. This is the one that I've got for Thursday. So I hope it's going to be.
Oh, you go at the airport, right?
Yeah, just for the airport. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to wear it the whole time. Like, I'm not getting carried away. It's only really just for the airport and for the trip.
I like
the plane. And I think it might be a nice icebreaker for women. Like, I could be sitting next to a woman on the plane, and she could start saying, "What's with the mask?" and I could start chatting to her, and before you know it,
mate, do you know what you remind me of? You remind me of one of those Mexican wrestlers. I forgot what they call them now.
My grandmother was a Mexican wrestler. This was made by my grandmother.
Right.
She was
with a little cat ears as well.
And she made this, and it's come down through the years, through I think 3 generations now, and finally it's come to me.
So, I love the little moustache as well. Fantastic.
Dubai,
that is going to protect you.
This is going to keep the whole virus thing away from me.
It's going to keep a lot away from you. A lot of other things as well. Believe me, it will keep a lot of other things away from you. Fantastic. I love that. I want one of those. Send me one. I want one. Right, listen. What are the types of riding? You know, we talked about this, the whole adventure bike riding and all this sort of stuff, which you do loads of. Is there any other kind of riding that you enjoy doing?
You shouldn't be asking this question in Ireland. And so, Billy, what kind of things do you like riding now? Do you like riding? I do like riding, yes.
No, come on. Yeah, I know it's a dumb question, but come on. What, you've got your Thruxton, I know you go off on your little keep your hand in little enduros, green laning type deal. But you know, do you like doing just getting on a racetrack, for example, or that kind of stuff?
I've only ever done one racetrack, and that was with Ron Haslam. I've gone into filming, so we were filming. So my primary purpose there was filming, and then Ron said, "Get your kit on. You can have a go." And I went. Oh, and it was raining, right, and lashing down, and I was proper nervous. So I would love to do more. I don't consider myself that hot on tar. I think I'm pretty reasonable and cocky on gravel, but on tar, I don't understand it the way I understand gravel. And so I did that day, but it was like lashing down. So it was like I found it was hard to lay in. But I'd love to do more track days. So I've got them, if you like, on my wish list. And Ron Haslam's is, you know, probably where I'd go back again, because proper school. And then the other thing which we touched on earlier on, before we actually went live, was that in Australia this year, because Charlie now has a relationship with Harley Davidson, and we don't go into that, but through that relationship now, I'm going to be riding a Harley, like a big fat Harley.
Right, and hold on. Here's my next question. Harley Davidson are bringing out the Pan America later this year, officially. What qualities must it possess to be able to compete? Right, carry on.
The thing is, I honestly, I'll be frank, I don't really know anything about Harley Davidson.
Right.
I know that they're a cool brand and they've been out there forever and they're the big American icon. And I know they've had some difficulties financially. Yeah. And I know Charlie's now got a bit of a relationship with them. Sure. And I've been offered to ride one on this trip. And I'm very privileged and lucky. I just know that I've got a big fat Harley to ride on this trip that I would normally be riding, like a nice Triumph 800 or a GS 50. And they said, "What kind of Harley do you want?" And honestly, I don't really know any of their names. I know there's the big fat Harley, and then there's the sporty kind of classic look Harley. And I just said, just give me one of them ones with the speakers and the big fat seats and the, you know, the side panniers and everything, because I never have the chance to ride. I never have the chance to ride sports bikes because I'm not a tar. I don't get them tar opportunities, and I've never really ridden a Harley. In fact, I've never ridden a Harley ever.
So this is going to be a first time for you. You're a Harley virgin.
Yes, so I get loads of pictures of me like cruising with my RI helmet on. I need to sort that out, because you can't ride a Harley with a big RI Torex. Torex is nice.
You can, mate. I'll tell you what. And who cares what anybody else thinks? Just put it on.
I want to look good. Alf, you know, I'm getting old now. I need to try my best to look good. Do you know what I mean?
Well, debatable, mate. Debatable. I would cover it up. But that's just me. I would cover it up. I like to go covered up. Face for radio here, mate. So definitely get it covered.
I'd like an open helmet. I'd like a proper. I'll give RI a shout. I don't know what RI have. I've never really, apart from
I tell you what, if you want a good open face helmet, Bell do some nice ones actually.
in a trendy kind of way.
Not that I'm suggesting in any way, shape, or form that you should choose a particular manufacturer, of course. Nothing.
Well, I would always go with Arai myself.
Oh, Arai, yeah, of course. I'm sure they do a fantastic open face helmet as well. And if you want to send one to me to prove or to test as well, by all means. Listen, is this a trip on the Harley? Is it going to be sort of documented as well, or are you just going to?
This is our Australia ride with Charley trip. So ride with Charley across Australia, across Tassie. So we'll have a group of about 15 people and just have a really fun time. Some people will bring their own bikes. Some people will hire them bikes. So we hire bikes in for people. So the bulk of the bikes, to be honest, will be Beamers, and there'll be one or two people. There's a really nice guy. He's a good friend of ours now. He's done a few trips with us. He's also a fighter pilot, and he's riding a Zero. He's going to do the whole trip that we're doing, but he's going to do it on an electric Zero, and he's proper cool. So we get up for breakfast at 7, leave at 8. He'll be getting up for breakfast at 5:30, leaving at 6, so that he can get ahead of us and get into some cafe or somewhere where he brings a big flask for them, and he'll plug in and he'll have a late breakfast and a coffee, and then so no, we're not filming. We'll film bits and pieces just for the crack, really. But
and where are you getting the Harleys from? Is it from a dealership or from Harley in Australia?
That call, it'd be Harley Davidson Australia. So that call before, when Charley rudely interrupted us, that was about the bikes. So
as soon as you know, give me a shout and say, Alf, we're riding these bikes. So I'll plug it for you.
Haven't I? I just said I want a big, fat, traditional-looking Harley because I've never really ridden one. And it's an opportunity, eh? May as well just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll have a blast. Totally different riding experience, but I tell you, you'll have a blast on it. Absolutely. And you know what? It's a bike. Who cares? Get on it, enjoy it, ride it. But as I say, when that Pan America, that adventure bike comes out later in the year, I think a lot of us especially a lot of us who've got a bit of off-road riding history, are all kind of looking at it thinking, it's that,
Is that the bike delayed?
So again?
Is that the bike that was delayed? Because wasn't it due out in January to start with? And then
so they've delayed it. Yeah, so it's possibly towards the end of this year, maybe even early next year, but it should be out in autumn. I would have thought October, November. They're saying here in the UK, but you know what these things are like. I've seen it up close. I think they've got a few tweaks. I think they need to put to it. They've got the radiator, which is really low, and it's not protected in any way, shape, or form. So they either need to split it, rise it up, or just put some kind of grill on it because it's just going to get pelted straight away, really. Apart from that, it's no different really from any of the other biggish adventure bikes. 1250cc, I think it is, liquid cooled engine, which is kind of, it's not new for Harley Davidson, but it's kind of moving away from what they knew.
Isn't it incredible though? Like if you cast your mind back to Long Way Round, which was 2004, and I would argue, some people maybe would disagree, but I would argue that Long Way Round pushed open the doors. They were already getting pushed open a little bit, but Long Way Round pushed open the doors that introduced adventure travel, adventure motorcycle travel to millions of people. And I would say on the back of that, quite controversial, that's why we are where we are today. That's why we are where Ducati have an adventure bike. Harley Davidson have an adventure bike. They
all do.
Now, back in the day, it was the Beamer and maybe a Honda Africa Twin or whatever.
Yeah.
And yet now, who'd have thought Ducati would have? And they name it Ducati Enduro. I think it's about 300, 400 kilos. Like it's massive. And performs. I've ridden one, by the way. Performs unbelievable off road. You wouldn't guess it. And but so all of that, I would say, is on. There was loads of people doing incredible, cool stuff like Mondo Enduro and that before Long Way Round. But Long Way Round actually, got a grip, didn't it? It came across the right time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That wave, and now you look around you, and everyone has got an adventure bike. It's incredible.
And look, this is what I say about Harley Davidson with this Pan America, this adventure bike they're bringing out. I've said there's a couple of things I think they really need to invest in. First of all, and I was saying this the other day, that if they're going to launch this to either existing Harley customers who may not have any experience with this at all, or a very well-informed, adventure biking crowd, what they need to do, you're not going to go to a dealership and say, yeah, that looks all right. They're not really going to let you take it off-road. They might, you can go and give it a road test, but that's about it. So what they need to do, they need to invest in sort of rider experience schools, just like Triumph do and BMW do. Go and thrash these around outside. Put them in the hands of capable riders and say, look, it actually can do this. It can actually can do this. If they hit the market just right and it's priced properly, and you know what, it's robust enough for to be capable off road, I think they're onto a winner. If not, it won't do anything at all.
Well, they're putting a lot of bets out there, aren't they, with the live wire and also with their adventure bike. I mean, that's they're pushing it out there, and fair play to them, because the bike industry is a very wobbly. When we look at North, it's a very wobbly, precarious industry. I think it was Mick Doohan, MotoGP champion, Aussie man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's him that said, like, if you're really, really careful, you can make a few £100 out of motorbikes.
Yeah.
In other words, like, it's fucking hard to make money out of motorbikes, and so
you can spend millions and earn a few quid. Yeah, absolutely right. Look, you touched on it there about the live wire, Harley Davidson live wire, but I want to talk in a more broad sense. What do you think of electric motorcycles? And we know that we're on the threshold of something. We know that it's the future, of course we do. But what do you think of them? And would you ever consider getting one?
Oh, for sure. I'm mega excited by them. And you know what? And there's loads of people who follow me on Twitter and that, and they'll say, "Oh, you fag, no way, not over my dead body and all that." Well, I think that's bollocks. It's a bit like going back to the whole, the way some people hate Harleys, or some people hate big cruisers, and some people only like BMW or only like small. I think it's that same argument. I want my garage to have a fucking big cruiser, a KTM 300 two-stroke, a Husqvarna, a KTM 1250, you name it. I want all that in there, and I want an electric bike as well. I want an electric trials bike, because how cool are they? The offset,
brilliant.
I want
offset bikes,
a bike, and I want an electric bigger bike. I just want to have all them toys, and I can't have all them toys, I know, but if I can, I will. It's just another bike, and I had to go with a Zero, and it was great fun. I really enjoyed the Zero. It's like proper awesome and quite quite scary. In fact, I would nearly like pull that throttle back and like the live wire 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds, and I think less than 3 seconds, and then there's some new electric bikes out there now that are like 200 miles range, 200 miles an hour. I mean, Jesus,
it's crazy. It's crazy. As I say, and the problem is every month or every 6 months they're making quantum leaps now. They're just getting bigger and better and faster and more range, and the batteries are going to be. There's lots of rumors about the batteries are going to be changing in the next couple of years, so they're going to have a lot more power and a lot more range on those batteries as well. So who knows?
Range anxiety was the big card against them. Like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, and now still there. But when you've got, look at the Rivian Jeep, like a car in it. The Rivian Jeep has a range of 400 miles. There's a new bike out now. I only read it. I only tweeted it the other day. God, the name escapes me. 200 mile an hour capability and 200 mile an hour. 200 miles. I mean, the whole range anxiety is becoming less of an excuse. And the more and more petrol stations and other places where you can actually charge up, not just with a charge, but with a fast charge, I don't see the negativity to them. I mean, I'm a proper petrol head. I love motorbikes, but I don't see them with this kind of
No,
You know,
no, neither do I. I mean, you'd asked me about 3 or 4 years ago, and I would have been, because I would have been, oh, come on, man, a waste of time. What's the point? But no, I'm actually, you're preaching to the converted now. I'm very excited by them. I'm very excited. Okay, put it this way: I'm very excited about the future of them. You know, and as I say, right now, I think we're on the threshold. I was just at a dealership the other day talking about the Harley Davidson Livewire, and I was surprised when they said they started selling them. People are buying them already, and I was like, they're already sold a couple. They got lots of pre-orders, and I was thinking, what, really? Oh wow, okay, maybe we're all wrong. Maybe this really will take off for Harley Davidson. That is, obviously, other manufacturers do, and I think as the years go on, yeah, a lot more people can do it.
Fair play to Harley, because they're going out on a limb there. I think I'm right in saying they're the first major international brand to do a production electric bike. You know, sort of at the price, not the price point, but the genre that they're going in at. Fair play to them. That's a big gamble, and you know, even if it fails, the next big brand won't fail. You know, even if it goes wrong for Harley, which I hope it doesn't, the next brand will pick up the mantle and they will become the next big thing. So, you know, and I'm dead excited by them. And as soon as I get back to the UK, because I'm away for a couple of months, but when I get back in April, something like that, I'm gonna contact some lucky bike people and say, look, I'd love to take one for the day or for the weekend and do a proper review of it, like, and have a bit of fun on it, like, you know.
I say the Harley as well. Actually, they're already in the process of planning to make another electric bike, more of a smaller model, a mid-size sort of model as well. So that's almost going to be like a flat tracker style, but maybe a bit more off-road capability as well with that. So that's interesting as well. You know, so look, it's evolving as we speak, isn't it? You know, that's right.
And the other thing that I find is really cool in the world that we're living in now, the bike world, is when you've got like what's the word I'm after? You've got like a sort of culture that builds up around bikes. So here, for example, in London, we've got the bike shed. You know, I love going to bike shed. I love the kind of feel good factor you feel when you're in there, whether you're spending money or not, whether you're just having a coffee or a beer or having a burger, but surrounded by this kind of cafe biker culture, you know. And don't get me wrong, I know some people say, oh, it's all about, like, you know, the beards and the tattoos. You know, I have a beard because I'm an old bastard. I don't have you know, I just like that buzz there. Same in Cape Town in South Africa. There's a real buzz there now with Deus. Deus have opened a really cool cafe kind of place.
Right.
Bit like, you know, the whole Deus thing is, I think, is a phenomenal thing anyway. Like when we're in Sydney in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be meeting at the Deus place. We're going to be meeting Dave Jennings. Dave Jennings is the owner of the man who created Deus. Like, he used to be involved in Mambo. Do you remember Mambo? Mambo used to be like a surfer t-shirt thing.
Right.
He got out of that and then invented this thing called Deus, which is like in Milan, in California, you know, all over the world, in Indonesia. And I love the way that motorbike cultures can wrap around certain genres. Like, you know, you mentioned you mentioned flat tracking there before. You know, sort of. You know, I love that whole flat tracking culture, and you know, the oval racing. I mean, you know, and you get a group of people who get behind that, like with the Dirt Bike magazine. You know, Dirt Bike. You don't really have that. Dirt Bike magazine or Sideburn. Come across Sideburn magazine. Sideburn magazine, such a super culture magazine all around the bike. And that's what's cool about bikes, because some people won't like that bit. They won't like Sideburn magazine, but they'll like this bit, or they'll like Enduro, or they'll like you know, GP or whatever. There's so many different cultures wrapped up in the in the culture, you know.
Well, listen, Billy, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I kind of, we've been going for nearly 2 hours here. No wonder you're taking a sip of gin there. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. Some great answers there, some great tales to tell. Look, everybody is watching this. You know, if you just go to the website, follow you on Twitter, just follow you on socials, go and see you in your one-man show. Fly over to Tasmania, buy loads of tickets. That's what I say. Go and do your global one-man show, Billy. I will be your theatre manager for that. How about that?
You could be my bitch. You could be my bitch.
You know, I could do that. But I'd say, you know, I could tell you I've got lots of experience. Oh yeah, I've been on TV as well, Billy. I've got a bit of notoriety. I've got a following. Oh yeah. Don't probe me too much, because then I have to start blagging just like you did. But there we go.
I'm not going to probe you at all, mate. Seriously, there's not going to be any fucking probing going on with you, Alf.
Are you sure that? Well, I've got some gloves somewhere anyway. Right. Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure, Billy. Anything you'd like to add before I go?
Only thank you. It's been good crack. And if people want to contact me, it's billy@biketruck.com or billy@charleyboorman.com. Send me an email and follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook. I try and have a good bit of fun on there. Get political sometimes, and that annoys people, so I back off about that a little bit. But, you know, life's too short. So my big thing that I feel in our world is that you should just go and do what you want to do. You should just go. If you're thinking on doing that trip, whether it's paying to go and do a trip like with Charlie and me, fine. But whether it's just doing your trip, whether it's going to Wales, Scotland, whether it's going to Iran, don't listen to the media. Don't listen to all of the no-sayers, the naysayers. Just go and do it, because life's short and the world is far, far safer than any of us are led to believe. So just go and do it. And even if it's a disaster, it'll be the best disaster you've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't say any more than that. Fantastic.
Okay, thank you, Al.
No, thank you. Been absolute pleasure. Everybody, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Down there, little ding-a-ling bell. Do all that kind of clicking stuff on there, so you get all the notifications of this. I don't know. I might have to chop up this video into about 3 or 4 little segments. I don't know. I'll put it out as a wanna. I don't know. What do you say, Billy? As a wanna?
Get rid of loads of it, because half of it's shit.
No, it's not. Don't tell him that. Just ignore him. Billy knows nothing, by the way. He knows absolutely nothing about this. But I'm going to say, oh my Harley. We can, because we've talked about Harleys. Oh my Harley. Billy, can you say, oh my Harley?
Oh my Harley.
Oh, that is the worst ever. What was that?
Pretty good. I tell you what, when I'm in Australia next week, I'll send you a little clip of me sitting on the big Harley Davidson, and I'll do a proper big "Oh my Harley" from there.
Oh, please go on. One more for the fans. Oh my Harley.
Oh my Harley.
Lovely. Right, catch you all again. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you, mate. Right.
RevelatorAlf.